The time has finally come for me to share my thoughts on the GoPro Hero 9 and whether or not you should purchase one or not.
What's up, everybody? We are on Last Dollar Road. We just got here, and
all right, so the GoPro Hero 9 is a piece of equipment that I actually started using last October. So as of the time of filming this video, that was like 9 months ago. I didn't really realize that. I've been using the GoPro Hero 9 for 9 months, after 9 months with the GoPro Hero 9. But anyway, the GoPro Hero 9 is one of those tools that I've been thinking about adding to my system for a really, really long time. Well, not specifically the GoPro Hero 9, but a GoPro in general. I have to be completely honest with you that for a very long time, I kind of disregarded GoPros as a useful tool for me. You know, I'm a pretty big stickler for image quality and for good colors and high resolution and, you know, shooting raw and depth of field and all these things that the GoPro Hero 9 does not do particularly well. And what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to try to help kind of the two groups of people that want to use GoPros. Oftentimes like to use the GoPro as this really unique tool that is really useful to someone who's wanting to casually capture their vacations better, all the way to someone who's maybe interested in using the GoPro Hero 9 for large, high-paying productions, and even passion projects that are important to them. I believe that the GoPro Hero 9's advantages and disadvantages are so strong that it's one of those pieces of equipment that for certain videographers and for certain projects is gonna be literally invaluable. You literally could not shoot that video without a GoPro Hero 9 or a GoPro or an action cam of some kind. While in other situations, your action cam's not even gonna leave your bag. And I really wanna jump into that today as we kind of go over the details. All right, so before we move on with the video and go over some more details, I actually wanted to give you guys a tour of the GoPro Hero 9. So we're just gonna go over the exterior of the camera, all the buttons. There's not very many buttons. All the screens, there's not very many screens, and just kind of give you a tour of the exterior. All right, so along the top here, you can see there is just one button. That's it, just one button at the top. This is your record button. A good tip for this camera, as far as this top button is concerned, is you can actually hold this button down when the camera is off to start it, and it will begin immediately recording. So if you're in the field, something's happening in front of you, you really want to start capturing immediately, and you know the camera's set up properly to capture that, you just hold this button down and you're good to go. On the side here, we have a your mode and power button. So on the back here, you have this giant screen. And actually this screen is my least favorite part of the GoPro Hero 9. Not necessarily because the screen's a major issue. We'll turn the camera on here real quick. Also takes a minute to turn on. Just kind of a buggy camera. That's one of the main disadvantages of this camera in my mind. So you can see the table I'm shooting right now. This display is just not very responsive. I feel like it just kind of does whatever it wants to do. Sometimes it works, and particularly in the mountains when you've got gloves on and you're kind of trying to navigate these menus and change settings and figure things out, it can be frustrating. I've gotten this camera honed to the point where I don't really need to jump into the menus. I mostly just change the settings a couple times a shoot, and that's about all I really need to do. On the front here, as you can see, there is a front display. And that display does not show you the whole composition, only the center square of what you're currently shooting. It only stays on for about a minute. I wish that it would stay on a little bit longer, but due to the horrific battery life on this camera, I allow it to go off even when I am using it to film, which you can see my S3 up there in the display. Right next to this display, you can also see this is the actual camera itself. This front part here actually does come off the front part of the lens, and you can replace that with accessories and different lenses, and there's also options for ND filters for this as well. On the bottom of the camera, to finish this off, we have the GoPro specific mounting system. In this situation, I'm using this Uulazi quick release system, and on the bottom of the Uulazi plate, I actually have a Arca Swiss plate. So this allows me to put it within my what's it called? Capture clip, Peak Design capture clip. And it also allows me to put it on any of my tripods. So I have this set up, and a cool thing, let me go grab it real quick. Leave this here just so you can see how this works. So I have this little GoPro branded, I think it's GoPro branded. Yeah, GoPro, actually GoPro made little tripod handle thing. I find this actually really useful. And the Uulazi quick release system just pops right in the top there. Super useful, love it. So that just leaves one part left on the camera, this side door right here. My autofocus is gonna lose its mind while I try to open this. So this is where the battery goes, the SD card goes. It takes a micro SD cards, and then also the charging port, the USB-C port. And this is also, if you use the media mod, you can take this door off like that, and that enables you to have you know, free access to the battery, memory card, and all that kind of stuff. It is no longer waterproof, obviously, but you know, it's kind of nifty that you can just pull that off no problem, and it does attach back on pretty easily. See if I can do this on camera without making a fool of myself. Oh yeah. Put it back on. There she is. So I've made a list of a few key advantages and a few key disadvantages to the GoPro Hero 9. All right, so the key advantages of the GoPro Hero 9. We gotta start with good audio. Now this is something that's gonna be specific to the newest, I guess, I don't know if you call them like generation. I think it's been going back a couple generations now, but starting around the GoPro Hero 7, what I've seen is a lot of growth in GoPros and action cams in general, audio quality. So in the past, it was always super tinny, quiet, noisy, and would really sound tinny and kind of trebly. You know, lots of treble in the sound, and just be really unpleasant to listen to. Thankfully, GoPro, starting with the 7 and continuously improving from there, has fixed this issue, and it is game-changing for the action cam. The simple fact of the matter that you can actually vlog with this camera, you can hold it out in front of you, you can talk to it, even if there's a little bit of wind, although I do want to have a pretty in-depth conversation at some point in this later on in this video about the audio, because it is just good. It's not great, it doesn't always work, and sometimes it's weird when it does and doesn't work. You might be in a situation, two situations that to you seem about the same with the amount of wind that is hitting the camera, but in certain situations that audio is going to be ruined, and in other situations that audio is going to be just fine. And that inconsistency kind of can add a significant amount of just uncertainty when you're in the field actually using the camera. So we're going to take a deeper look at that advantage and maybe kind of the disadvantages to that advantage as well.
You know, I've hiked a lot farther in the past, but I have never ran, you know, a sub 3 hour half marathon. So that's kind of what I'm going for. My pace last week was 1 hour 34 minutes.
All right, so I'm gonna just jump in here to discuss the audio. So we're gonna go over a few different situations and kind of how the audio on the GoPro Hero 9 held up in those situations. Or I'm also gonna give you some tips and tricks on how I quickly and easily get the audio sounding a little bit better. So inside the camera, I actually leave the audio settings completely default. I've not changed any settings. So if you get the camera, pull it out of the box, this is the settings you're going to get. Now this situation up here is an example of just hiking along on a nice warm January day. It's probably like 60 degrees and I'm getting ready to go for a run. And this is a great example of the strengths of this camera. I get pretty decent audio here.
A sub 3 hour half marathon. So that's kind of what I'm going for.
And you can definitely, hear it sounds pretty good, kind of quiet though. I'm not talking particularly loud. I'm around a lot of other people out there on the trail. So what we're going to do to fix the audio that I find works the best is we're going to come down to this loudness button down here. Now I'm using Final Cut Pro, and I don't know exactly what the best way of handling it in Premiere would be, or any other editing platform, but within Final Cut, I have found that my favorite way of managing the audio is actually going to be using this loudness setting right here. Now if I hit that and hit play.
My pace last week was 1 hour 34 minutes, so we're going to see if we can shave any time off.
All right, so getting into the next clip there. Oh man, sometimes, let me tell you what, when you're vlogging and you have to look at random freeze frames of your face, it can get kind of awkward. This is maybe one of the most awkward ones I've ever run across, but we're just gonna skip back here before we hit that up. And we're gonna re-enable this, and I think in this particular situation, I would wanna bring the loudness up a little bit higher.
A sub 3 hour half marathon, so that's kind of what I'm going for. My pace last week was 1 hour 34 minutes, so we're going to see if we can shave any time off.
Yeah, so you can get the idea in that particular situation, just by using that one setting, turning it off and on again with the loudness setting, you can hone it into sound, in my opinion, fairly good. You have some other kind of just basic applications, but the fact that the audio can be so well balanced, just straight out of camera, that all you need to do is really just boost the signal a little bit. And the fact that it can handle a signal boost without losing a lot of quality is pretty amazing as well. You're listening to this on a USB microphone, and that can hopefully give you an idea of what you might be able to expect in comparison, one-to-one comparison with the audio here boosted.
It was 1 hour 34 minutes, so we're going to see if we can shave any time off.
That has been a significant challenge today, has definitely been the snow conditions.
Okay, so this clip I picked to show you guys for one really key reason. It's important to remember that the microphone on the camera is not directionally targeted, which means ambient audio can cause major issues like it did in this clip here. As you can hear, my snowshoes, I'm actually talking about the snowshoes and how loud they are.
That has been a significant challenge today.
Are definitely overriding my voice. Now, while my voice is still there, if I use that same tactic I used before by just boosting the audio, I'm just really going to be boosting the sound of my snowshoes.
That has been a significant challenge today, has definitely been the snow conditions.
Now, you can use other methods to try to help this along, like boost the uniformity, maybe pull this down. You might be able to make your voice similarly loud.
That has been a significant challenge today, has definitely been the...
In this particular situation, the way that I found to solve this was to just add subtitles and actually bring the overall levels down. You could still hear what I was saying, but realistically, this is a situation that needed subtitles. So once again, it's just a reminder that, this isn't a have-all, end-all microphone here. However, on a more positive note, here we have an example of me being in the middle of a sleet storm Actually, it was raining pretty hard. You don't see it as well in the footage, or sleeting pretty hard. You don't see it as well in the footage, and you can hear the audio of that. All right, so with that time-lapse shot, I'm pretty sure I missed focus on it, unfortunately, but, you know, what you gonna do? Just taking pictures of some dogs earlier today. All right, so as you can see within this clip here, it's raining, it's fairly windy, and still the audio holds up. You know, once again, it's not perfect, it's not beautiful, but it doesn't hurt my ears. I understand what I'm saying, and realistically, that's what I want out of a microphone in those kinds of situations, as I want to capture my voice in as pleasing a way as possible, but without getting too tinny, without losing words and wind noise or background noise, etc., and really be able to hear it. So this is an example of one of the best examples I could find that really showcases how useful the audio really is on this camera. Another thing about this camera is the amazing stabilization. Now notice how I used a different word here, amazing as opposed to good. The stabilization in the GoPro Hero 9 is revolutionary. And I believe you're gonna get a similar experience with the GoPro Hero 7 and 8. But once again, that idea of something that's just, you can pull it out of your pocket, you can point it at something, you can walk towards it, you can walk away, you can even throw the GoPro Hero 9. And the footage will look fairly stable. It's just so awesome to be able to have gimbal-like image quality, gimbal-like stabilization quality, should I say. Another huge advantage is going to be that everything's in focus. Now, this is kind of a disadvantage at the same time, similar to the good audio, because it really hurts this camera's ability to, let's say, match with bigger cameras, for example, and it also hurts this camera's ability to be an all-in-one option for people. Most videographers who are serious at all are gonna want a bigger camera, and you know, this camera is gonna give you the smartphone look without some of the smartphone processing, and you know, definitely everything being in focus though is a huge advantage from that context of just using the camera to capture whatever's in front of it. So if you set the camera up to shoot a time lapse of the sunset, you're not having to worry about that autofocus, whether it's focusing on different things and focus breathing and all that kind of stuff. Just set it up on a tripod, boom, you're good to go. That's just such a huge advantage in the field and in actual practice, actual filming with this camera. That's something that's going to really help when you're vlogging. You don't need to worry about autofocus. Once again, your face is just gonna kind of be the same amount of in focus as it always is. One tiny disadvantage in my mind is that I've found that anything pretty close to the lens, including when you vlog, your face tends to kind of be indefinitely kind of soft because the actual focus point tends to be a little bit farther away from the lens, but it's never so bad as to be shot ruining. And that just really means you can point this camera at anything, it's gonna capture it. That's really great. The last huge advantage is the big advantage that this camera is going to have above a smartphone. I think there is one more advantage above a smartphone, but we'll get into that a little bit later. The advantage to this is it's tiny and it's durable. So this is smaller than most smartphones. Let me pull out mine. If I can actually get it out of my pocket here. All right, so here is my iPhone 11, I believe, just the straight up 11, and you can tell that it's a bigger device than the GoPro Hero 9 is. And what that means is when it comes to mounting this on things like a car, like yourself, like your head, or a chest mount, or when it comes to just holding the camera out, or setting it up on a tripod, just all the way around, this is a smaller, lighter package than your phone is going to be. It's also not your phone, which sounds kind of like a weird, huge advantage, but it's kind of a stealth advantage with this. You kind of get all the advantages of a phone camera, but you don't have any of the super major disadvantages like, I don't know, if you drop your phone in the ocean, you don't have a phone, or if you knock your phone against a rock and shatter the screen, well, now your phone screen shattered, not just a small scratch on the side of your GoPro, even if that. So definitely the fact that it is not your phone is an advantage when using it in those more risky situations, in addition to the fact that it's generally more durable than your phone would be as well. It's a more durable shape, it's made out of more durable materials, and it's just built to get beat up. I've been using this thing like crazy for 9 months, and honestly, it looks as good as new. Even the displays aren't particularly scratched up. See you on the next adventure. Peace. Now we gotta talk about those disadvantages, because they are real with any action cam, and the GoPro Hero 9 is no different. The big one I gotta talk about is the low light, because it really undermines this camera's usability in a lot of situations. Indoors, it's rarely usable. This has just been my consistent experience with this camera is indoor environments just tend to be darker than you think they're gonna be in comparison to broad daylight outdoors. And what you're gonna find is your footage is gonna look noisy, the colors are gonna be bad, and the auto white balance is horrible indoors. You'll get really tungsten looking, soft, noisy footage. Also, the stabilization doesn't work as well because the shutter speed can't be as high. Low light's not great, and you can extend all of the things I just said to the outdoors at dusk, pre-dawn. Some of these situations, I've had unusable footage out of this camera, and that's a big weakness on this camera, because if you noticed, a lot of the advantages were all about being at the ready, really good instantaneously. You can just whip this camera out, point it at something, point it at yourself, strap it onto something, and just film, and it's gonna get good audio, it's gonna be stable, it's gonna be fairly sharp, all of those things I talked about in the advantages. Well, you can kind of erase all of those things except the good audio part in low light. It's just not a low light camera. And that may be kind of obvious to a lot of you, but to some of you out there, I'm sure that you're kind of looking at this camera as the all-in-one answer. And if you find yourself indoors a lot, if you find yourself maybe needing to shoot in the dark a lot as well, I would steer away from this camera and even go for a camera that you have to kind of work around a little bit more, because in the end, it's about capturing good images. And you know, for me, it means I'm always gonna have my A7S III, the camera I'm filming this video on right now, in my bag. Just full stop, S3 is gonna be in the bag. All right, so another big disadvantage is going to be subject separation. I kind of went into this already within the focus category, so I'm not gonna spend too long, but because the depth of field is so deep, it doesn't necessarily cut as well with other cameras in sequence, especially if it's kind of a dawn situation, you know, where you're maybe combining kind of the fact that it's a little more noisy, a little more grainy, and you're also kind of starting to introduce a lot of that deep depth of field, stuff like that. It can be kind of aggravating for sure. But you know, just to kind of make a big point here, this camera does look really good in broad daylight. You know, broad daylight, big wide shots where you want everything in focus. This camera creates a great image. It really does, even a high dynamic range image, an image that's workable and editable in post. But you're never gonna get super shallow depth of field out of it. It's just not gonna happen. And realistically, it's not the purpose of this camera to begin with. Another big downgrade is gonna be the image quality. You know, you're getting 5K out of this camera, 4K out of the other ones. It's good footage, it's fine footage, but you can definitely kind of pick out the differences between this camera and a larger one. You can really see the bigger sensor in comparison to this one. There are a lot of tricks. You can color grade it, and you can sharpen it in post, and you can set the camera up. I may make a separate video about how I have this camera set up, or at the very least, I'll link in the description to a video that guided me through the settings for this particular camera and kind of helped me figure out how to get the settings dialed in so that I could do quite a bit of color work in post. But the image quality is going to hold this camera back. It's just not going to meet the level of even pretty old APS-C micro four thirds and full frame interchangeable lens cameras at this point. And then the last issue is something that may not jump out at a lot of people as this major concern, is going to be the limited field of views. Basically, you have one lens on this thing, and it is a wide angle. You can crop in on the sensor to get something that's maybe a little bit more standard wide angle, not super bulbous. It's called the cinematic mode, and that's what I leave my GoPro in most of the time because it fits well with the stabilization as well. It crops in on the sensor, so it has more room to kind of move the image circle around a little bit more and get it slightly smoother in that regard. But I really do have to be, clear here. You're not getting you're not going to be able to zoom in and grab something. And as a vacation camera, particularly as a stills camera, I think that is a major weakness of this. There's kind of one perspective you can show. Now, of course, the beauty of the GoPro Hero 9 is you can use that field of view, that perspective, in a lot of ways that you couldn't otherwise use it with a larger camera. You can mount the GoPro to the outside of a car, you can dunk the GoPro in a stream or a lake, all these different things to kind of get creative. And that's really the key to the GoPro Hero 9. I really want to get this point across that the real advantage to the GoPro Hero 9 is as a tool to help you tell stories, maybe capture the story, capture elements of the story that would be difficult to capture otherwise. That dash cam or that angle on the tire of your 4x4 going up a 4x4 trail. If you're interested in scuba diving, you can mount it to your chest, just have it there, kind of just filming as the day goes on, and you can capture memories that you wouldn't be able to capture with another camera because it's small, because it's durable, because it has good audio, amazing stabilization, everything's in focus. All of those advantages combine to make this really excellent storytelling thing. I really hope that you learned quite a bit about this camera, and I hope that you feel more ready to either use it or whether you want to buy it or not for your projects, or if you kind of impulse purchased it in the past, maybe whether it's time to separate with this camera, or if you now have a better idea of how to use it in your own productions. This was a pretty in-depth, pretty long video at this point, and I really wanted to dive pretty deep into this camera and really go over the technical stuff with it, but more importantly, go over how to use it, how to actually apply it, or how I maybe as an individual apply this camera and give you ideas on how you can use it in your own productions, because that's really the core element to this camera is, does it make your videos better? Does it tell your stories better? Does it get your point across better? Does it show your adventure better? And on that note, I'll see you on the next adventure. Oh, please subscribe, obviously, if you're into this kind of content. Also, a lot of the videos that I mentioned, I probably already said this, I don't know for sure, but definitely go check out our Adventures channel, go check out the videos. I've got every video that actually was published linked in the description down below, so definitely go check that out. And yeah, I'll see you next time.